So first of all, thank you for doing this.
It's a pleasure.
Oh, likewise. It's one of my favorite films of the year, and I find it very comforting is the wrong word, but I love that you're in this because I feel like every time I see you in something, it's Captain this, it's Deputy that. Hollywood certainly has an idea of what they like you to do, and listen, I'm sure you're fine with it. The money's green, but I
Mhm.
don't know
Yeah.
that I've seen you do this before.
In what way?
I think it's
Yeah.
much more about the paternal aspect. Obviously, it's a tough guy, and I see the appeal, but there's so much going on here. It's such a I think by the end of the movie, you're thinking so much about this character because you wonder what must be going on in his head, right? And to play that role, I'm wondering
Mhm.
how do you find that guy? It's such a complicated role, and you can play him in so many different ways.
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting point. And, I guess, the first thing that you have to do if you're going to play a guy who was an icon in the world of professional wrestling is you have to learn how to wrestle.
Yeah.
And so and it's harder than it looks. It requires a tremendous amount of athleticism. It requires a tremendous amount of technique. And then for the guys who become stars in the world of professional wrestling, you also have to have the charisma and the personality and the ability to create a character that's going to capture the imagination of the wrestling fans. And then on top of all of that, you have the additional responsibility of playing a guy who was a real person
Yeah.
and who about whom volumes have been written, and his matches, many of them are on YouTube. You can watch them. You can read about him, and look, there are a lot of people out there that are very critical of Fritz and of the decisions that he made. But if you're asking me, what is he at his essence? I think that he's a family man
Yeah.
who really, really wanted his sons to be as successful as possible. I think he was in love with one woman his entire life. And I think, when she left him, he was absolutely bereft. I think that I think he took tremendous pride in his son's accomplishments, and that one brief shining moment when David was still alive, and Kevin and Carrie were such big, they were all such big stars, and he was, of course, not only the patriarch of the family and a former wrestler himself, but he was also the owner of the promotion. So he was in a position to say, hey, the stars of world-class champion wrestling are the Von Erich boys,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do everything within my power to push them up there. And because they've got what it takes, this is the family business. And I think that certainly in the case of David and Kevin and Carrie, I don't think it took a lot of persuading to get them to pursue a career in wrestling. I think that they were born into it, and I think they wanted it. And so Fritz was not just a father, he's also a coach, and then he's also the boss because he owns the promotion. So he really is a gigantic figure in the lives of his sons. But I think it all came from a place of love and from a place of tremendous fatherly pride.
Oh yeah, because I think there's a version of this movie where he, like he looks like a bear. Like he is this imposing figure, which is not an accident. Like he has to be imposing to his children. But I think there's a version of it where he is sort of an unloving monster. And that's one, it's not true, but it's also not satisfying. And I think the thing you watch here is here's a guy who just lacks the tools to tell them the thing they clearly need to hear. And unfortunately, is one of the things he passes on to them is just it's a movie so much about people not being able to say they're not okay. And I think what everyone in this movie, you included, does so well is expresses things with their eyes, because the conversations aren't going to have them. And that goes for Mora as well. There's scenes where she's doing so much with her eyes. And I think as you watch and as you see the weight kind of hit everyone, I think watching you is so interesting because you're so aware of having to put on, well, I'm still the boss. I'm still the dad. I gotta be tough. Everyone's got to be a tough guy, while also lacking children at a certain point, like going through this immense grief. There's so much going on. And I think even your sort of final scene is so very much this, we don't know how to communicate the things that we want to say. And it's heartbreaking, and it's so well done. And I think it takes such a soft touch, which is kind of ironic considering how sort of hard everything going on in the movie is.
Well, that's very nice of you to say that. I mean, I really enjoyed working with Maura Tierney.
Yeah.
You never know, what kind of chemistry that you're going to have with another actor. And, she really had a kind of a beautiful quality that she brought to the character of Doris.
Yeah.
And, it made me feel like, there are a couple of scenes that didn't make it into the final edit, where, she, tells me she's leaving me, you know what I mean? And for the first time, we see real emotion in Fritz, because, I think that Doris meant the world to him.
Yeah.
I think family meant the world to him. And, growing up on the ranch with the boys, and, creating that environment for them, to be young and to enjoy themselves, but also, to be, as I said, he's a father, but he's also a coach. He wants his sons to be strong. He wants his sons to be in shape. He wants his sons to be ready to go out in the world and conquer. And, in my own life, I had an absent father. And if you made me choose, I'd much rather have a father like Fritz von Erich.
Yeah. Which is, maybe not also the ideal, but as you're saying, it's there's something about, and I think the early scene is so important, of seeing how he was with them as little kids, to
Right.
that baseline of like, no, this is a guy who loves his kids and he's doing his job, but has time for his family. And I think as you see it grow, you kind of understand why he is the way he is, not necessarily understanding what he's doing, but when he says who the favorites are for him, I'm sure that's fun competition. That's family fun. Like, the rankings can always change. You're never last. You're never first. That's his
Right.
way of saying I love you all equally, is everyone gets a turn as my favorite, hopefully, if you work for it. And,
Right.
it's just, he would never consider that as a bad thing for him. That's, we're having a great time over here. And, the family tells him the same. Zach goes and talks to Maura about, like, I think he's pushing Stanley too hard. He wouldn't
Right.
tell you that, because, like, this is dad's way of bonding with us. And I think seeing all that, and then seeing, like you said, how you are with her, the what's for dinner? Oh, I didn't make it. Like, there's no reaction. There's just this acceptance of, well, I guess I don't eat dinner tonight. Like, I've been told how it is. There's sort of so much going on. And I think it really does. I think you do bring something very unique to it from that past, of also having a different experience than I think most people. I think, someone reads your biography and goes, oh, wow, like, that's not how most actors come about. And that's, I think, how you get these interesting performances, because you approach them in a way that who else would, because who else brings that to the table?
Well, you're very kind to say it. I mean, look, Sean Durkin wrote it.
Yeah.
And so I was sent the script. And, it's funny, when you're an actor, you read something and you can kind of make a determination pretty quickly. Am I the right guy, or am I not? And you have to be honest with yourself about that, because no actor is right for every part. But
Some will argue that, but you're right.
Yeah, they and you see it, but then you think, no, sorry, buddy, but you're good, but you're not Stanley Kowalski. You know what I mean? And
No, there's something to that, I think. And you, like, that's a credit to also working with really good directors. I mean, you've worked with Fincher, with Sean. Like these are guys who will tell you, I think, bluntly but also kindly, like, this is what I want for you. Like, can you do this? And
Right,
there's a tool there in going, I know the assignment and I can do this. And you want me
right.
because I can do this. Like I think a lot of actors forget that, and they're used to like, well, I need to be told, constantly told how it's going. No, no, I told you you're amazing because I hired you. I picked you out of everyone. And
Right.
that's my way of saying it. I've heard that so many times over the years from a director being like befuddled that an actor is like worried about their performance. No, I picked you. Like I want you. Like my head was you. We're already there. Just do the job. We'll be great. And I think seeing the reactions so far from the film kind of speaks to that. That I think there's not a ton of people who have the gravitas in just physical presence, and also here's the roles I've played. I can do this part, even though maybe you wouldn't make me the first choice, but I'm the right choice. There's something always as a viewer satisfying about that.
That's a really interesting observation, and it reminds me of a conversation that I had with Sean Durkin after he had sent me the script initially, and then we got on a Zoom call together. And one of the things that I said to Sean, as I said, Sean, you picked the right guy.
Yeah.
Your instincts were 100% right, because I knew from the time that I read it that I could find a way in to play Fritz von Erich. And the last thing I'll add to that is that I saw a brief interview with Kevin von Erich
Yeah.
uh, uh, just after he had seen the film for the very first time, and he said, I didn't think they'd be able to find a guy to play Fritz,
Yeah.
but they found the right actor. And to be honest with you, Joey, that meant more to me than any review by any critic could have made, because my only regret is that Fritz died in 1997.
Yeah.
So I couldn't meet him. I couldn't ask him what was in his mind at certain moments when he made certain decisions. It would have been really interesting for me as an actor to be able to hear from the horse's mouth, this is why I chose to do this. And I can speculate about it, and I
Yeah.
can make choices, and I can play those choices. But but I would have loved to have met Fritz, because even though he had his detractors, he also had his admirers, and I'm very firmly in the latter category.
Well, he's a man of a certain time, and I think that's where I think, as you were saying, like the Kevin saying, talking about that, because you immediately think about what he would think about Zach playing him, his people playing his brothers, like the obvious sort of, well, if we did this wrong, we're causing more trauma for this man. But the fact that he had such things to say about you speaks to that of like, but also I remember the good times. Also, I remember my dad. I remember my entire family. And I think, everyone has sort of spoken about, you know, making sure that they were being respectful of him, but also not being too close, because you're not making a movie just for him. And I think by doing that, by making the movie that Sean wanted to make, and that he felt passionate about, and that the cast felt passionate about, it spilled over into him. And there's a reason that he's in it in the camp, and there's a reason that so many people, and there's a reason like it obliterated me. It works, and I think your instincts were correct. As we wrap, I think it's important to remember your instincts were correct, and I can't wait for more of this, because I think it's going to open a ton more doors. Because as I said, I love when you're Commander so and so, but I think this is great too, and I want to see more of that.
Well, you're very, very kind to say it, Joey. I had an extraordinarily positive experience preparing for this role, going to wrestling school with a guy named Johnny Rods, the unpredictable Johnny Rods, who actually wrestled Kevin Von Erich in Madison Square Garden. And he's 83, and he still has a wrestling school in Brooklyn, New York. And I went into his office and I said, Johnny, I'm going to play Fritz Von Erich. And he said, the Iron Claw. And I said, yes, sir, I'm going to be the Iron Claw. And I'd be grateful to you if you could impart whatever wisdom about the sport you can share with me. And he was so generous with his time that he would keep his wrestlers sometimes, and I'm not exaggerating, until 1 o'clock in the morning, and just throw them in front of me. Now wrestle this guy. Okay, he gave me notes. Now wrestle him again. Now you in the ring with Holt. Now you in the ring with Holt. Now you in the ring with Holt. And, because you have to do the right kind of preparation and homework so that you can feel within yourself that you've earned the right to go out there in front of the cameras and to play this guy to your version of him, and so, if there's anybody that I would really love to thank, it's the wrestlers who helped me prepare, because it was through that process, studying Fritz's tapes, looking at his old fights, watching his interviews, and trying to, to recapture that style, that Fritz von Erich. He started his career off as a heel.
Yeah.
Remember that in the 1950s, he impersonated a Nazi. There were so much anti-German sentiment, after the war, that was a way, to be a heel. He's very effective. He was a very charismatic guy. I think he's a legend in the sport. I think he'll be remembered for a very long time. I'm very happy for the Von Erich family that the film exists. They have really embraced the film. Kevin has said on numerous occasions how happy he is with the film, and it was an honor for me to play his father, and I'm just happy to have been a part of it.
Well, from Brooklyn, New York over here, you should be incredibly proud. So thank you.
Oh, I appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much for doing this. And I will continue raving about the film for this year, next year, for a lot of time to come. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Much appreciated. You got it.